Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is your second stimulus check update video for Saturday, June 20th. I hope everyone's weekend is off to an amazing start so far. So, in this video I'll be discussing both the first and second stimulus checks and why we should be very optimistic on receiving them. Also, I'll be real quickly touching base on the $4,000 ExploreAmerica tax credits, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, before I dive into the video today, if you wouldn't mind just real quickly liking this video, giving me a big thumbs up, it really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other people like you, and hopefully helping other people like you. Also, in the comment section below, let me know whether or not you received your first stimulus payment yet or not. It really just creates a good dialogue and lets me and others know who still hasn't received their stimulus payment, who has received their stimulus payment, and which people have pending direct deposit dates. Okay, so I'm going to start out this video by talking about the first stimulus check. If you still haven't received your first stimulus payment, no worries. I know it's frustrating. It's been several weeks now, and at this point in time, you feel like you're just going to be left out. But certainly no worries. I would speculate that the next set of direct deposits will be going out next Wednesday. I say that squarely without really any true evidence. I haven't seen anyone actually receive a direct deposit date for next Wednesday, but they have been going out usually every single week on Wednesdays. So I would expect the next kind of trending direct deposit date for next Wednesday, the 24th. In the meantime, the best advice I can give you, unfortunately, is just to continue checking the payment portal. 99% of the time, the payment portal will update before you receive your payment. And sure, there are the rare instances where the payment portal never updates and you end up receiving a direct deposit date. So of course, continue checking your bank account because maybe you'll receive your direct deposit into your bank account and you won't actually see the payment portal update. But as I said, 99% of the time, the payment portal will update before you receive your payment. Also, you can always try calling the IRS, and that EIP hotline they do have is 1-800-919-9835. However, usually you will have to wait on hold for at least a couple of hours, and generally they're not really all that helpful, and they'll just give you the same information that you can find yourself through the payment portal. So for that very reason, I would just recommend continuing to check the payment portal every single day, and I wouldn't even really bother reaching out to the IRS because most likely you're just going to waste a lot of time on hold, and you're probably going to get jerked around, and you're not really going to receive a lot of benefit from actually calling them. And of course, if you do check the payment portal and you receive a status of payment status not available, that status does not mean that you're ineligible for the payment. It doesn't mean that you're not going to receive the payment. All that means most likely is that the IRS has just not scheduled a delivery date for you. So in the meantime, just continue checking. One trick that you could try, and I'm not saying this is going to work 100% of the time, but for some people it has worked. If you type your physical street address in all capital letters, or if you abbreviate your street address, so if you live on a drive, if you abbreviate drive for DR, sometimes that can help fetch a date. Like I said, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it could always work. And if you continue receiving payment status not available after trying that, then that just means that you have not yet been scheduled a delivery date. So in the meantime, try not to get too frustrated. Remember, you're definitely eligible for a stimulus payment as long as you're not being claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax returns, and as long as you don't have something like past due child support that could potentially offset your stimulus payment, you're definitely going to receive it. So just hang in there. Try not to drive yourself too crazy. You will eventually receive a date. All right, so at this point, I wanted to talk real briefly about the possibility of receiving a $4,000 ExploreAmerica tax credit. This is a tax credit that we may see in the next stimulus bill, where each American family could earn up to $4,000 just by doing different type of traveling activities, such as going on flights, going to restaurants, staying in hotels, even potentially just like getting gas or any other type of traveling related activities. Now, American families will most likely end up receiving right around 50% of what they spend in a tax credit. So if you end up spending around $2,000 traveling domestically throughout the US, then you'll probably end up receiving right around $1,000 in a tax credit. And while it has been argued that doing this may not be targeting the correct people, because really, who will have the money to travel after a pandemic rather than people that already have the money to be traveling otherwise? Either way, I guess if this is in addition to direct stimulus payments, I can get on board with it. The only way that I would truly be upset is if we had this ExploreAmerica tax credit, but then we weren't sending out stimulus payments. So if we're going to be doing this instead of direct stimulus payments, then I would be pretty upset. But if this is in addition to direct stimulus payments, then, at that point, I guess I can get on board with it. But really the main point here that I did want to address in this video, since there is a strong possibility of this being in the next stimulus bill, I would strongly advise people now to kind of get themselves organized. So if you are going out to restaurants, I would advise maybe just taking a picture on your phone of the receipt. Also, every time that you even get gas, I would strongly advise taking a photo as well, or any other type of traveling related activity. If it's in question, I would take a picture of your receipt. That way you kind of have everything documented, and if this does get passed, I would assume that it would be retroactive as of January 1st, 2020 and extend all the way through 2021. That way you kind of have yourself organized and you can begin writing some of this stuff off. And yeah, while there is a possibility that we may not see this tax credit in the next stimulus bill, and you could just be wasting your time taking pictures of all these receipts, at least if it does pass, you'll already be organized and kind of ahead of the game. Okay, moving right along to the second stimulus check payment talk. Now, we talked about before that Donald Trump was wanting to push out a $2 trillion stimulus plan, which was great news to all of us because we saw before that Mitch McConnell in the Senate was only wanting to spend right around $1 trillion. You know, he wasn't wanting to go big on the phase 4 stimulus package. And then on the other hand, we had Nancy Pelosi in the House of Representatives. They were ahead of all of us. They were pushing out a $3 trillion stimulus plan. And for the most part, they were all on board with that. In fact, they already passed the HEROES Act back on May 15th, which was a $3 trillion stimulus plan, which would include an additional round of $1,200 stimulus payments to each American, and even dependents would receive $1,200 as well, which we saw in the CARES Act. A lot of dependents were left out because they were adults over the age of 17 and they weren't eligible for the $500 stimulus payment. So we're going to up the payments from $500 up to $1,200 in the HEROES Act. So this was great news to everyone. But of course, the Senate was not on board with this. $3 trillion was just way too much spending, and Mitch McConnell did not want to spend that much. Now, with the fact that Donald Trump is wanting to up the budget from $1 trillion in Mitch McConnell's plan up to $2 trillion, that was great news because there's going to be a lot more room for stimulus payments. But then it came out that he was actually wanting to spend $1 trillion in infrastructure. So we were thinking, okay, if he's going to spend $1 trillion in infrastructure, wait, that's only going to leave $1 trillion left over. And $1 trillion isn't going to go completely towards stimulus payments because, you know, we're going to have some of that money go to state and local government, maybe $500 billion. And then more money is going to have to go to small and large businesses. Then we're going to do hospitals and testing funds. And then, of course, you have to have your payroll tax cuts. So, where's the room going to be for stimulus payments in that $1 trillion when you factor in all of the other fluff? So, of course, naturally, we all became a little bit worried. However, Donald Trump and Steven Mnuchin have both made it pretty clear, without actually coming out and directly saying it, that they're both on board with additional stimulus payments to the American people. Also, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin even came out and said even though he would like for the next stimulus relief bill to be a little bit more targeted, he would still want to get money out to everyone in the economy. And he sort of insinuated that at the very least, the same people that receive stimulus payments in the CARES Act should also receive stimulus payments in the next stimulus bill. Now, whether or not dependents will be eligible in the next stimulus bill is still left to be wondered. The HEROES Act that the Democrats in the House of Representatives passed back in May did include additional stimulus payments to dependents. So for each dependent, up to 3 dependents would receive an additional $1,200. So if you had a husband and wife and they had 3 children, then that family would earn $6,000 because each person in that family would be eligible for a $1,200 stimulus payment. Now, obviously, the HEROES Act has absolutely no chance of actually passing the Senate, so we don't know whether or not dependents will be eligible for additional stimulus payments in the next bill. However, in some other good news, Vice President Mike Pence was interviewed on the Charles Payne Show, and I think that you'll all really like what he had to say. So Charles Payne came out and directly asked Mike Pence if the $1 trillion infrastructure plan that Donald Trump has would be a part of the $2 trillion stimulus bill that he had mentioned, or if Donald Trump wants to have his infrastructure plan in a completely separate bill. And like I said, I think you'll really like what Mike Pence had to say about this. And he said, quote, "Our expectation now is that infrastructure will be a part of a separate piece of legislation. There is roughly a $400 billion infrastructure bill that the president and our team have had conversation on. The president has made it clear that we are in discussions with Congress about another phase of recovery, and it's going to be focused on the American people, making sure that families are able to get through this virus pandemic. We're going to help small businesses. We're going to push our economy through. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things the president has made very clear with leaders in Congress is we got to have pro-growth policies in this next round. The president wants to see a payroll tax cut. That's going to put money into the pockets of working Americans. We're going to make permanent the relief on the employer side. It will encourage investment in job creation and growth. We're going to put families first and the American people first and make sure they have the support they need. So, there you have it. He's going to put American people first and American families first. Let's wait and see. Hopefully he follows through with the promise here. Now, the bad news here is that we'll most likely still have to wait all the way until August or September at earliest to receive additional stimulus payments. That's because the Senate does have their 2-week recess vacation coming up in early July, so they'll get back in late July, and they've made it pretty clear they're not even going to touch the next stimulus bill until they get back from their recess, which means that they do get something passed through, say in late July, the House of Representatives will also have to be on board. So by the time they push that through and President Trump agrees to it, it would probably be August at earliest, possibly September, which means payments won't go out until late August or possibly early September at earliest, which of course is incredibly frustrating. As I've said time and time again, each piece of legislation should have its own bill. If everyone in Congress is on board with second stimulus payments, we should just pass one bill right now and only have additional stimulus payments in that bill. Then after that, we can pass more bills with just one piece of legislation in it. Small business relief can have its own bill. Hospital and testing can have its own bill. Funding for state and local government can have its own bill. We don't have to be adding all these into one bill to make one huge super bill. That just makes everything super complicated. But again, that just makes too much sense, right? Okay, so at this point, I'm going to wrap up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received from my previous video. And if you have any other comments or questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I will try to pick some of the more popular ones to answer in my next video. So the first comment today is coming from Angela. Angela says, are the rules the same? If you are claimed as a dependent, you still don't get a second stimulus check? I'm 29 years old with 2 kids, and I didn't get the first one because I was claimed as a dependent. All right, Angela, thank you so much for that comment. And the second stimulus bill has not yet been passed, so we don't know all of the rules yet. Now, in the HEROES Act, all dependents would be eligible up to 3 dependents, and they would receive $1,200. But the HEROES Act is not going to pass, so we don't really know which bill Congress is going to pass. My guess is that it's probably going to be pretty similar to the CARES Act. I'm still not sure on dependent eligibility, so we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so the next comment today is from Thelma. Thelma says, Josh, I live in Lima, Peru. I am retired on SSA and receive my pension via direct deposit. I have no children, no husband, and I've not received the stimulus money through direct deposit. Please advise. All right, Thelma, thank you so much for that question. And unfortunately, since you do live abroad, the IRS does have issues in terms of directly depositing stimulus payments into non-US based bank accounts. So if you do have a non-US based bank account that you usually receive your payments in, unfortunately, they're going to have to mail you a check instead, which could delay your payment. Now, if you do have a US based bank account that you usually receive your payments in for your benefits, then that will be the same bank that they deliver your stimulus payment in via direct deposit, so there shouldn't be a holdup. Now, you're not alone. There's still many expats that haven't received their stimulus payments. There are some expats that have received their stimulus payments, but in general, there's even a lot of people in America that haven't received their stimulus payments, so hang in there. It may be that they just have not gotten it to you. Continue checking the payment portal. If it says payment status not available, most likely that just means they haven't yet scheduled a delivery date. So in the meantime, just hang in there. Try not to drive yourself too crazy. You will definitely eventually receive a date. And on that note, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so, and it's a great way to support my channel. And until next time, I'll see you guys, and I hope you have a great day today.